My dear community, I don't need to tell you how crazy this reality is. And I'm going to just jump straight into Rosh Hashana and share with you a thought that has been going through my mind, and I've decided is the thought that I must share with you on the eve of Rosh Hashanah. Every year on Rosh Hashanah, we read from the Torah, and then we read the Haftarah, and we read about an incredible woman named Hannah. What makes her so interesting and so relevant to the Rosh Hashanah story is that before the temple was built in Jerusalem, there was a Mishkan. It was a far more low-key, temporary type structure, which was our temple for many hundreds of years, built by Moses in the desert, and then all the way hundreds of years into our dwelling in Israel until King David and then King Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem. Hannah is an older woman who is desperate to have children. She has never had a child. And even though she's getting on and her biological clock has probably ticked its last tock, she approaches the Mishkan and she stands there praying. The high priest Eli comes up to her, thinking that she must be crazy or drunk because it's such strange behavior, and asks her, "What are you doing?" And she tells him that she's praying to have a child. And he looks at the breastplate the high priest wears and the letters that have lit up miraculously on the stones that make up the breastplate. Each stone had letters engraved in it corresponding to the 12 tribes. And he thinks that the letters that have lit up spell the Hebrew word shikera, she is drunk. But after listening to her, he realizes that the Hebrew letters spelt a different word, kashera. What she's doing is correct. You see, nobody had ever prayed in this personal way. In the times of the Mishkan, people would bring sacrifices, and there would be very specific incantations. But for someone to approach the temple in an unstructured way and pray and silently pray, that was unheard of. It had never happened. How much more so a woman in what would have been a society that much of the leadership was masculine, coming forward and praying by herself, without a conduit, without a priest, without a Levite to escort the process. This was bizarre. And every year on Rosh Hashanah we read about it because we're meant to draw out of it how amazing prayer is and all the other fantastic messages. And I've spoken about Hannah many times at Spiritgrow. But this year Hannah has a whole other message for us. This year, Hannah's telling us, go and whisper in the temporary temple, not in the temple in Jerusalem, not with a sacrifice of an animal, but rather at the Mishkan, the temporary abode, and whisper, unstructured, from the heart, beg, speak, share. Hannah creates personal prayer and a relationship with Hashem in a very, very incredible, unstructured way that fits within the structure of Judaism. And every year we come to shul, into a structured mikdash, into a temple, and every year we go through the structured prayers with Zalman and myself and my father, and we read the structured machzor, and we go through it, and we read about Hannah, and we say, wow, prayer's powerful. But this year, there is no Menachem. There is no shul. There is no Zalman. There is no high priest. There is no sacrifice. There's just the whispered prayer. The end of the story is that Hannah does fall pregnant. And she does have a child. And that child goes on to become known as the famous Samuel the prophet, Shmuel Hanavi. This is one of the greatest prophets in Jewish history. This is the prophet who we read about in the stories of King Saul, King David. This is the prophet of the transition between the Mikdash and the Bet HaMikdash, the Mishkan to the permanent temple in Jerusalem. And life's not easy for Shmuel, and nor is life easy for Hannah afterwards, but she gets that child, and that child is an incredible child who goes on to become the transition character. This Rosh Hashana, we're all at home. And I'm going to say it, I'm not looking forward to it. I get so much from davening with you. I get so much from being in the same room as you. Selfishly, I don't want this to be the reality. Forget the responsibilities of a rabbi to make sure people, I just want it for myself. There is nothing like the magic of facing the hundreds of people that sit in the room with us for Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. You have no idea how much I get out of that. And I know how much you get out of it. And I'm missing it. I'm standing in shul right now and I'm looking at it and there are like 20 chairs. Empty. I'll stand by the ark. Who's singing with me? I'll whisper. But there was a high priest in the story. That high priest, Eli, he prayed every day. It took a Hannah to whisper for herself. I stand here, I can daven here, but I don't know if it's my prayer that's going to create any change. It's probably going to be one of your prayers. The more frustrated you are about this reality, the more opportunity you have to transform that frustration into spirituality. The more aggravated you are, the more emotionally empowered you can become. The more you want to get on Zoom and listen to another chazan, the more energy you have to actually be the chazan. We're going into the Hebrew year Tofshin Pei Aleph, 5781. And there's an old mystical tradition to give the year, to turn it into an acronym. The acronym that has very quickly arisen for this year, Tofshin Pei Aleph, is Tehei Shnas Plois Arenu. Let it be a year that I will show you miracles. I being Hashem. I will show you plois, wonders. The concept of a miracle and the concept of a wonder is not that we daven and we get a miracle. The concept of a miracle is that you cannot explain how or why it happened. All you can do is be absolutely amazed that it did happen. Plois arenu, I will show you multiple. Plois is plural. Not hele arenu, I will show you something cool. I will show you many amazing things. We've seen amazing things in our past, positive and negative. There's no reason why Plois Arenu isn't going to be the most amazing year ahead. However, every miracle, as is explained in Kabbalah, every miracle requires a trigger. What makes it a miracle is that the outcome is not commensurate or has any true relationship to what triggered it. But the trigger doesn't snowball, the trigger just elicits. It's like opening a little hole and it's like a crack in a dam wall. is enough to make the whole dam fall apart and the water to gush forward. Every year we blow the shofar, and that is what happens. We blow the shofar and existence continues. We read that in the Musaf Amidah, which you have in your boxes. We blow the shofar, and Zeh Hayom Tchilas Ma'asecha, this becomes the day that begins creation. Every time we do a mitzvah, it triggers all sorts of spiritual responses, and those spiritual responses manifest in physical ways. Hannah came to a curtain and she whispered unstructured prayer in a moment of heartfelt conversation, and she has a baby. How many times did she pray? Don't know. She prayed many times, but there was a particular prayer that triggered the response. Teheshnas plois areno, I will show you incredible miracles, says Hashem. Just give me something. Give me something that can trigger it. Just trip the wire for me. I'm ready, says Hashem. So how are we going to do it? So I'd like to ask you to take advantage of lockdown. While we're in lockdown, we're really in our own space. There's very little judgment. The only judgment really is the judgment of what people see when we Zoom with them. They judge our background, they judge our bookshelf, they judge the paintings, they judge our fake background, whatever. Other than that, you live in a bubble. I'm asking until the end of lockdown. This might only be 2 days. It might be 10 days. It might be 6 more months. Until the end of lockdown, 1 mitzvah a day. 1 mitzvah a day. In the past, it's been 1 mitzvah a year, it's 1 commitment. I'm asking 1 mitzvah a day. 1 mitzvah a day. 1 deed. That deed can come in the form of prayer, it can come in the form of study, and it can come in the form of action. 1 good deed, 1 mitzvah. And I don't just mean a nice gesture. After Yom Tov, get online and look up what are the mitzvot. What is something? What is a tradition, a Jewish tradition? You can divide a Jewish tradition. Let's say you want to go with kosher. So 1 aspect of kosher that doesn't exist in your home. Let's say it's Shabbos. 1 aspect of Shabbos that doesn't exist in your life. Let's say it's learning. 1 daily moment of study. 1 text. 1 thing. Why? Because mitzvahs are not just commandments, they are connections, as is explained in Kabbalah. And they're not just connections, they are expressions of a desire. They are outcomes that Hashem wants. And where does a desire come from? A desire comes from deep within. A desire, when you feel like you want something, it's like, I want it. It's somewhere here. You don't go, I want something. You want something from here. If these are Hashem's desires, then we're tapping into the chest, into the emotion, into the depths of the soul that is Hashem. And when we do that mitzvah, we bring that depth into our lives. And when we bring that depth into our lives, we bring a spiritual flow that has not existed before. That's what Hannah did. She dug deep into herself, and in doing that, she dug deep into the consciousness of the entire universe. And not the universe's consciousness, the consciousness of the universe, the consciousness which creates the universe, the consciousness of Hashem. She was able to get there via going internal. And when we do a mitzvah externally, we are able to tap that internal as well. And when we start bringing those sorts of spiritual flows into our home via the mitzvot, it becomes epic. Plois areno. Give me something and I'm going to show you miracles. Over the next 48 hours, whisper. Whisper to Hashem. Tfilas Chana. Pray like Chana. And after Rosh Hashana, in the new year, begin the new behavior. Begin the new mitzvah. Do it. We don't get defined by what we read in the news. We don't get defined by what we hear politicians say. We as a people know this better than anyone. We're not defined by politics. We've been around. We've crossed seas. We've had temples. We've been everywhere. Empires, kingdoms, and news agencies have come and gone under our watch. Ploos arenu. Our existence is a miracle. And the experience of our existence can be miraculous. I want to wish you a Shana Tova, a good year. Shnat Briot, a year of health. Shnat Gashmiot, a year that will be physically enriching. A Shnat Ruchniot, a year of spirituality. A year of Arenu Plos. I'm going to show you miracles. I love you. I miss you. I'm pained with you. And I look forward to celebrating in person with you very, very soon the miracles of the future. Shana Tova.